especially, he talks about that we should respect these basic elements, the 5 basic elements which are called devatas. And when we are not living in harmony with these, then ultimately we human beings suffer. Okay, so let's see today what he's telling us. Page number 128, mantra number 39, from a Rig Ved. जल तत्व का महत्व वेद में बहुत स्थानों पर है. But the water element, and you all know the 5 elements: the Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, Akash. So Jal Tattva he's talking about in this particular mantra. जल तत्व का महत्व वेद में बहुत स्थानों पर है, परंतु जल का वास्तविक प्रयोग जन साधारण के लिए प्यास बुझाने और शुद्धि आदि के लिए ही. निम्न 2 मंत्रों में यही भाव प्रकट किया है. And that's what I was telling you before, the jal neti. So with the water we can keep our nose clean. So jal. So the part of the mantra says, Apo Devi Roop Havye. मैं पीने के लिए जल का आह्वान करता हूं. विश्वम ही रिप्रहम प्रवहंति देवी ही. जल सभी प्रकार के मल को दूर करता है. देवन का प्रधान जोय, जल को ले वो जान. जिस लोक में जल नहीं है वहां शमशान. पीने को ना जल मिले जीव तरस मर जाए. मीन को नहीं जल मिले वह तड़प मर पाए. धरती पे है जल बहु, जल भरा जहां जान. धरती भाग तो अल्प है, जल सर्वत्र मान. शुद्धि हेतु है जल मिला, पीने को भी जान. उस जल को दूषित करत आज का इंसान. दूषित जल सागर में जाए, जलचर जीव तड़प मर जाए. दूषित जल का करे जन पान, रोगी आयु मर रहे जान. How true, how true. कहते हैं अभी भी हम संभल जाएं तो ठीक है. Stop polluting the environment, right? And we are witnessing it firsthand right now. Let's do our Vedic peace prayers before we start the Astavakra Gita. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhuvah Swaha, Tatsavitravarenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityor ma amritam gamya. Om sehna vavatu, sehna bhunaktu, sehviryam karvavahi, tejasvi navadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. We are in the 2nd chapter of this great scripture. And towards the end of the 2nd chapter, verse number 22. And in this chapter, King Janaka is speaking. After going through the practice which his guru suggested to him. Sometimes it feels like that in the 2nd chapter only he became realized. But he was so close to the realization. He was already a Karam Yogi. And it also depends with what kind of intensity he did his practice. Because sometimes we can do the practice in a lukewarm manner. Sometimes we can do it in a moderate manner, but sometimes some of us do it with the highest intensity, and that's what he must have done. Okay, because sometimes it just comes to our mind that in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna kept asking the questions throughout, only up until the end. In the 18th chapter, he showed the surrender and he says, I'll do as you say. Okay, so different level of the students. Okay, so what does Raja Janak say over here? 22nd. Na aham deha, na me deha, jiva, na aham aham hi chit, ayam eva hi me bandha asit, ya jivite supriya. Na aham. Na is not, aham means I, deha, body. I'm not the body. So he is speaking that experientially. We are only reading it. But first we have to read it to experience it. Okay, so we are reading what King Janak has experienced. Na aham deha. Na me deha. Na means not, me means my, deha body. Nor have I a body. And the similar words, na aham, aham hi chit. Chit means over here intelligence or the consciousness. Ayam means this, ev means alone, he is indeed, bandha, bondage, asit, was, ya means that, jivite, to live, supriha, desire. He says, I'm not the body, nor have I a body. So that means this body is not mine. I am not the body, and this body is not mine either. Because if this body is ours, we should be able to take it with us when we leave this body. So I am not the body, nor have I a body. I am not a being. Over here, this means the ego. I am pure consciousness. That I had desired to live. This indeed was my bondage. So the desire to live in this physical body, with all what we have, he says that was the bondage. So you can see that he is speaking experientially over here. So once having reached the state of God consciousness, this is a very daring statement he's making. So he is examining himself as he is and comparing himself with what he was. So that's why he says, so in the past, he must have thought that I am the body. He says, I'm not the body. Then a little evolvement. This body is mine. Different than me, but mine. He says, that's not true either. And I'm not the ego. What am I? The Atma, the pure consciousness. In Bhagavad Gita also, similar kind of verses were spoken by Lord Krishna. You can go back to Bhagavad Gita. Chapter number 7, verse number 12. Lord Krishna says, Na tvaham teshu te mai. Then again in chapter 9 also, in verse 4, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat vyakt murtina. Matsathani sarvam bhutani na chaham teshavasthita. So you will see these verses, similar sounding statements Lord Krishna is giving over there. So in this verse, we can see very clearly that he is not aware of his equipments of experiences and he cannot identify with them. And he cannot develop any kind of a ego or a sense of ego in himself. So that's why he says, I am pure consciousness. Okay. So, and he himself answers that his only bondage was that while living in his delusion as an ego, he had a thirst for life. As an ego, he desired to live the joys of sense gratification. This alone was the bondage. Sapriha. When this, the misconception ended, the ego dissolved, disappeared with the vision of the self. So this is where King Janaka is. Aho bhuvan kalole vichitre drak sam uthitam mai anant maha ambdo chitvate sam udyate. Last 3 verses, Rishi Janaka is giving the same example which he has given before, the example of the ocean. He says, Aho, Aho means oh, like a marvelous. Bhuvan kalole, waves of the worlds. Vichitre, diverse. Drak, instantly. Some uthitam are produced. May in me, anant maha ambhado, in the limitless ocean. Chitvate, in mental storm. Some udyate, when rises. So he says, oh marvelous, in the limitless ocean of me, when mental storms arise, diverse waves of worlds are instantly produced. So where are these waves? These waves he is talking about the fluctuations of our mind. But he is just giving an analogy of the ocean, that in the ocean, all of a sudden there are waves. Some big waves, some small waves. So in a very, these last 3 verses are so lyrical. And that's how he's ending his dialogue to his guru. So it's like one of Raja Janak's favorite metaphor of the ocean. Okay, the ocean, the winds bring those waves in the ocean. And in our own mind, how do we get those fluctuations in our mind? We got to think about it. Mind which we try to keep it calm and clean, how does it get so turbulent? It's almost like when we are sitting in a room, we want to go out. It's a desire to go out. That's where the movement comes. Then we move our body outside. Or if somebody calls us from outside, the same way in this mind also. Sometimes the old memories could be the imaginations, or sometimes it's whatever we see outside. So with the help of the senses, our mind comes into that fluctuation, even though the mind should be calm, controlled. So that's why all these practices which we do, whether the meditation practice or whether even in these classes when we learn also, we are trying to learn how to control our mind. Control our mind. See, Sapriha is with the mind, the desire. There's no mind, there cannot be any desire. A sattvic mind will have sattvic desires. Tamasic mind will have tamasic desires. So that's why constantly we have to keep on working. So over here, he just says that limitless ocean of me. Limitless. Because this mind of ours, it has been traveling for countless lives. It has countless impressions in them too. So those impressions just keep on churning it and making the waves higher and higher. So, but whenever the mind is quiet, when is mind quiet? We do go through a quiet mind every day. All of us do. Our mind is quiet in deep sleep. Deep sleep, right? See, there are levels of consciousness. We are familiar with the wakeful conscious, Jagrat Avastha. Some people can keep their mind calm in there, but that takes practice. Then there's a Swapan Avastha. When we are dreaming, mind is not calm. There could be a good dream or there could be a bad dream. Mind is again fluctuating. Then comes the deep sleep. Deep sleep. Okay. So in the Sanskrit, that's called Sushupti. So Jagrat, Swapana, and Sushupti. So in Sushupti, mind is calm. But the thing is that Sushupti, that deep sleep, we really don't have much control over it when we are sleeping. We could be in the bed for 7-8 hours. But how long will it take for us to go into the deep sleep? And how long will it take us to reach the deep sleep? And how long we'll stay in the deep sleep? It's not in our hands. So that's why the Yogi Guru says, do meditation. Then consciously you can quieten your mind. And if you are a beginner, you cannot sit in the meditation. At least do the Hatha Yoga. Try to calm your mind when you're just turning your head around, doing the Griva Chakra or the Skandha Chalan or your pranayam. Or if you are doing your Tratak, Tratak is the eye exercise. Just try to control your mind at that time, consciously trying to keep your mind under your control. So that's why Hatha Yoga is very, very important. And especially these days, we can spend more time practicing it. But the idea is while doing the Hatha Yoga, working on the body, but keeping an eye on the mind. Where is the mind? Is mind watching the news at that time? Or is the mind stressed and worried at that time? Or is the mind thinking about that divine? So even while doing Hatha Yoga, try to keep an eye on the mind. Okay, because ultimately what we are doing is trying to work on our mind, that it doesn't go through the waves, turbulent waves. That's our job. So whenever the mind is quiet, as in the deep sleep, there are no perceptions. But the moment we wake up, the mind gets active, and some people's minds get very agitated. So that's why yesterday's meditation, I told you that no talking after the meditation. And I'm sure you did not talk, otherwise also after getting off the Zoom also, try to stay calm as long as you can. So in the limitless ocean of pure consciousness, he says, that is my real nature. And that is our real nature too. So he is confessing over here, and we get a little hint over here that when mental storms stir up the agitations, then waves are created, and they represent the endless variety of experiences. So in summary, when the mind is calm, the world of polarity rolls away. So what he's saying, in reality, there is nothing but the self, the soul, the God, the Brahman. But all of this, whatever we see, has superimposed on the reality. Superimposed means, we always talk about that example of the rope and the snake. It's a rope, but it's not complete light outside. And we superimpose a snake on it. We think it's a snake, but it's a rope, and we don't know. We need the light. The same way, it's all Brahm. It's all God. It's all divine. But our mind has superimposed all this polarity on it. Okay, so that's what he's telling us, that my mind is the one who created all this. Then he says in number 24, May Anant Maha Ambado Chitvate prashamyate abhagyat jeev vanijah jagat pota vinashwaraha. May means in me. Anant maha ambudau. In the limitless ocean. Anant means limitless. Maha amb. That is the ocean. Amb means water. Maha amb. It's an immense volume of water. Chitvate, the storms of the mind. Prashamyati, ceases. Okay. It's a prashamyati also means silent. That means it has ceased. All the fluctuations have ceased. Abhagyat, unfortunately. See, bhagya is a fortune. Abhagyat, unfortunately. You all know that whenever there's a in front of the Sanskrit term, it's the opposite. Okay. Jeev vanijaha, of the jeev. What kind of a jeev? The trader. Vanij. Jagat potaha, the ship of the universe. Vinashwaraha, gets wrecked. Vinash, gets wrecked or sunk. With the calming of the storms of the mind, in the limitless ocean of myself, unfortunately for the jeev, okay, jeev, which was a trader, which was like a businessman, the ship of the universe gets wrecked and sunk. So it's almost like a graceful picture of the previous verse is carried on. So King Janaka is explaining that the storms of the mind have been calmed. The world of the polarity gets sunk, doesn't have any existence anymore. For whom? For this kind of a practitioner. For other people, it's still there. For this person has calmed the mind. So all the ups and downs, whatever is happening, doesn't affect him. So that's why the world of polarity gets sunk and disappears into the ocean of the self. So all the unreal gets dissolved into the real. Going back to that example of the snake and the rope, where does the snake go? First we thought it was a snake. When the light is put on it, somebody comes over there and flashes the light on it. Where does the snake go? Into the rope. Into the real thing. The same way over here, the reality is all divine. It's all God everywhere. There's no place where God is not. We all believe in this philosophy. कहते हैं ना, कन कन में भगवान. There's no place where God is not. But we are imagining a lot of other things, some at the individual level, some at the group level. We have superimposed all of this. When we can see the reality, the polarity just merges into it. It's like all the waves, they have gone back into the ocean. So it's like a very poetically, he's talking about his experience. So the Jeev, see, that's why we are called Jeevatma. See, when we talk about the Atma, that's a Shuddha Buddha Atma. When we talk about the Jeevatma is an individualized soul. When we don't identify ourselves with the Atma, that's a Jeevatma. So in that sense, he says, Abhagyat Jeev Vanija. Because for that Jeevatma, it's all a business, Vanij. There's a duality, gain and loss, heat and cold, happiness and unhappiness. That's all called a Vanij. Okay, so he says, otherwise it's not there. So then the last verse of this chapter, May Anant Maha Ambudau Ascharyam Jeeva Vichya Udhyanti Dhavanti Khelanti Pravishanti Swabhavata. May means in me, Anant Maha Ambudau. The same word came in the last verse also, in the limitless ocean. Ascharyam, wonderful. Jeev Vichya, the waves of the individual self. Udhyanti, rise. Dhavanti, strike each other. Khelanti, play. Pravishanti, enter. Where do they enter? To disappear. Enter. Swabhavata, according to their nature. This is wonderful or marvelous. In me, the limitless ocean, the waves of individual selves, according to their nature, rise, strike each other, play for a time, and disappear. So the beauty of this verse, that's how he ends this chapter. So what he's talking about, all these waves, they have been risen. Some good waves, some happy waves, some not so happy waves. Some attachments with the children, some fear for myself, all those waves. But now I can see that there's nothing. They all have disappeared because I have a vision of who I am. This was all a play going on. So that's why he says, they rise, they strike each other, and they play, and now they have entered. They have dissolved. There's nothing but the Atma. So, and that's what happens during our dreams. Don't we see that? All kinds of dreams we go through for a few hours at night. When we get up, we know that they were all dreams. Some people, sure, they would like to pay too much emphasis on the dreams and trying to find some kind of a message in the dreams. But dreams are just dreams. It's a play of the mind. All the images in the mind. Okay, so the same thing he's talking about, that whatever has arisen according to the nature, and nature over here means the sattvic, tamasic, and rajasic. That's what the nature is. All our thoughts are not bad. And they're not all good either. There's a combination of it. So this is all of them. They just get dissolved. So just as a dream, the individuals arise, fight in a competitive existence, play their games, and in the end, it's all gone. Okay, so this is where he stops talking. So 25 verses he spoke, King Janak. And his teacher, his guru, must be listening to it. Because next chapter, chapter 3, Rishi Astavakra is speaking. He's almost taunting his student. He's testing his student also. Because one time a vision of self, he says, I want to make sure that the student of mine is fully, firmly established in the self. So that's what we see. Gurus, they do test. Because it's a guru's job. My Guruji used to say that on one hand, Guru has the grace, graceful hand. On the other hand, he has a stick also. So that the student is fully disciplined. Both. He used to give the example of a kumhar, the potter. Guru is like a potter. What does Guru do? What does potter do? One hand inside the pot, the other hand outside. So from the inside protecting, outside constructing and reconstructing. So that's what Rishi Astavakra is doing over here in the next chapter. Because he heard it all and he wants to make sure that his student is firmly established in what he is saying. Okay? So it's almost like a testing the depth of realization in his student. So, but some of the words we'll see, it's a very taunting words of the master. They almost sound like a very sharp ridicule. And what happens? Some students, if the guru is saying something like that, if they're not really firmly established, they'll run away from that kind of a guru. Because that means the ego is still there. But a person who has really experienced it will know that my guru means well for me. Okay? So Astavakra Uvacha. Avinashinam Atmanam Ekam Vigyaye Tatvatah Tva Atam Geyasya Dhirasya Katham Artha Arjane Rati. Avinashinam, indestructible. See, Vinash is when something gets destroyed. Avinash means indestructible, which cannot be destroyed. Atmanam, self. See, everything else in the world, the way it is, it just gets destroyed. See, in reality, nature cannot get destroyed either. There's no destruction for the nature, but it does not stay in the same shape or form. See, just like a log of wood, when we burn it, sure, it becomes ashes. But that doesn't mean the matter has been destroyed. It became ashes and some gases. Okay, but it is not in the same form. So, but the self is indestructible. There's no change in the self. Ekam, one, vigyaye, having known, tatvata, in its true essence, true nature, tattva. Okay. Tav means your, atam geyasya, knower of the self. Atma ko janne wala, atam geyasya. Dhirasya, poised in wisdom. Katham, how? Artharjane, in the accumulation of wealth. Artha, rati, attachment. This rati word comes again and again. Sometimes as a uprati, sometimes as a avirati. In different scriptures, we have learned this word again and again. Rati. Okay. See, uprati, if you remember when we did the Vivek Chudamani, uprati is a virtue. If you remember those 6 qualities, Sham, Dam, remember that? Shraddha, Samadhan, and there's a Uprati. Uprati. Uprati means rising above the attachment. And Avirati is a flaw that we get attached. Avirati. So Avirati is an obstacle, Uprati is a virtue. So this Rati word over here, just remember that, attachment, Rati. Astavakra said, having known the self in its true nature as indestructible and one. One means it's only one. They're not two. One, everywhere, the same one. So having known the self in its true nature as indestructible and one, how is it that you, a knower of the self, and one poised in wisdom, feel passion for the accumulation of the wealth? So remember, Astavakra is telling this to King Janaka, that you are still a king. I see you in this immense wealth over here. Live in the palace. All your servants, your ministers, the jewels and the chariots. How can you say that? That you are self-realized saint. So that's why I said it's almost like a taunting versus ridiculing, apparently. So it's almost like he's waking up his student. So he says, how can you call yourself a self-realized? Okay, so having known the self in its true nature as indestructible. If you say that you have known this now, And it's only one. How is it that you, a knower of the self and one poised in wisdom, dhirasya, feel passion for the accumulation of wealth? Because as a king, sure, last time we were talking about as a king, the king will go out and in his kingdom too, protect his kingdom too. So you say, how can you do that? Atam agyanat aho priti vishe brahm gochre shuktehe agyanatah lobha yatha rajat vibhrame. Atam agyanat, from the ignorance of the self. Aho, alas. Priti, attachment. Vishe brahm gochre, in the illusionary world of the senses. Okay, Vishe means the senses. Gochre means it's like something is roaming in there. Brahm is the illusion. Shukte. Shukte word has come in the first chapter also. It is like a seashell, which is called a mother of pearl. Inside it looks like a silver. Shukte. Agyanata, from ignorance. Lobha, greed. Yatha means as. Rajat, vibhrame, due to illusion of silver. So King Guru Astavakra is saying to King Janaka, alas, just as due to ignorance a seashell is sought, mistaking it for silver, even so due to the ignorance of self, there is attachment to the illusionary world of the senses. So he's amplifying the previous verse and telling Astavakra that explain it to me. Your ignorance. You say you know the self, but you are still collecting the silver, which is not really a silver. The life is only for the self, and you are still attached. From outside, it looks like you are still running after the worldly wealth. Because as a king, he pursues wealth, all his worldly activities, even though it is a service for the society, but his guru says it's in contradiction to the state of self-realization. So he's pointing out to his student that you are attached to the throne, its power. Those are the symptoms of the spiritual ignorance, according to the Guru. Vishwam safurti yatra idam taranga iv sagre sa aham asti iti vigyaye kimadina iv dhavasi. Vishwam, universe, safurti, arises. See, something which comes up, safurti. Yatra, where, idam, this, taranga, waves. Iv means like, sagre, in the ocean. Sa means that, aham, I, asmi, am, iti, thus, vigyaye, realizing. Kim, why? Dinaha, deen person, a wretched person, creature. Iv means like, dhavasi, you run about. So pretty strong taunting words over here in this verse. He says, having realized, I am that. Sa aham asmi. He says, you are saying that you have realized, I am that, I am God. From which the universe arises. Like waves from the ocean. Why do you run about like a wretched creature? So you know that you are one with Brahma. You say that you have realized it, but I see you running around like a deen person. Why are you doing it? See, why do we run around? To accumulate, to grab, to hold, to save. Because we haven't gone over our sense of imperfection. See, this sense of imperfection generally creates the desires for accumulation, possession, enjoyment of other objects. We think that we are all looking for happiness, all looking for peace. We think that by doing this, I did not get peace, but maybe by doing something else, by having something else, going somewhere else, I will get the peace. So over here, Guru is saying that you say that you have realized that I am that from which the universe arises, that you have experienced it. But why do you run about like a wretched creature? Why do you sweat and toil, work and exert, plan and execute programs, even if it's for the service of the world? Other people may be doing it for themselves, but you are still doing it. So Guru over here, Guru Astavakra is deliberately teasing his disciple. Why? To get out of the student a confirmation of the deepest realization. Because we'll see in the next chapter the answer given by King Janaka, or a student Janaka. But right now, this is a duty of the Guru to really probe the student. So that, because sometimes what happens, first time a person goes into a deep samadhi, thinks that I have become God now. Because the people who have studied Yoga Darshan with me, we learned the layers of the samadhis. Progressively, you just keep on going higher and higher. It's not that so one time you just envision this, that I am Atma, our journey is over. So he wanted his student to stay firm on the practice also. Okay, so a lot of cleaning to be done, just like in our own house also. Sure, we can clean it superficially, but to deep clean it, it will take more effort. And to clean the closets, even more effort. And to clean underneath the rugs also, in all the little nooks here and there, or even the basement, garage. And that is just a physical building. Think about this mind, this chit. How many lives, how many different forms of lives we have lived, what we have accumulated. So just one practice of meditation is not gonna do. Okay, so that's why it says Guru's job, Guru's duty to make sure to keep on instilling this into a serious student. And he found that King Janaka is that kind of a student. Okay. Then he says, Shrutva api shuddha chaitanyam atmanam ati sundaram upasthate atyanta samsakta malinyam adhigachati. Shrutva, having heard. Api means even. Shuddha chaitanyam, pure consciousness. Atmanam, self. Ati sundaram, supremely beautiful. Upasthate, in sensuous objects. Atyant samsaktaha, deeply attached, almost like a entangled. Atyant. Malinyam, impurity. See, mal hota hai na jaise, malinyam, impurity. Adhigachati, attains. Even after hearing that the self is pure consciousness, supremely beautiful, how can one yet be deeply entangled in sensuous objects and thus become impure? Okay, so hearing, हम लोग तो सिर्फ सुन रहे हैं ना, hearing. King Janak saw it. So his guru is saying, after you have seen it, but if somebody just hears it, that how beautiful the God is, how beautiful that Ansh of God, which Atma is, supremely beautiful, how can one be deeply entangled again in the sensuous object? So the only reality behind the universe is to drop all the meaningless fascinations for the sense objects of the illusionary world. That is the only. So that's why we got to keep an eye on our mind. Is it thinking about the worldly enchantments, or is it thinking about the divine? Because the minute we start thinking about that, we'll get entangled again. That's why he used the word atyant samsakta. Because as a king, Janak is seen in his royal chambers, surrounded by sense objects, music, and dance, and wealth, and the splendors. So that's why Astavakra is wondering, how can a man of wisdom ever get deeply entangled in sense objects? They should generate disturbing agitations in the mind. And that's how the mind will become impure again. Lust creates an extreme body consciousness in the lusty. And that's what brings the storms of agitation into the mind. And agitated mind, what happens to the agitated mind? It veils the vision of the self. And I'm sure you are all familiar with the term. Agitated mind is called vikshepa. There's a mal, vikshepa, and avarna. Okay? So agitated mind veils the vision of the self. So that's why a sincere seeker must become very careful about it. Doesn't want to become impure with the contact of the sense objects. Sense objects are needed, they should stay outside, not in the mind. Okay? It's not that we need to run away from them, but they should not enter the mind.
How is one to acquire knowledge?
Sorry.
Question, Jyoti?
Nope. Sorry.
Okay.
Something just went off.
Okay. Yeah, we'll end it in maybe with the next verse, and then I'll give you time to ask questions because it's 11:22 right now. Sarvabhuteshu cha atmanam sarvabhutani cha atmani mune janataha ascharyam mamtvam anuvartate. Sarvabhuteshu, in all beings. Atmanam, self. Sarvabhutani, all thing. Cha means and, atmani, in the self. Mune, of the sage. Janata, knowing. Ascharyam, amazing. Mamatvam, mindness. Anuvartate, continues. See, the two words we often talk about, aham and mam. Aham is I, mam means mine. So over here he talks about mamatvam, mineness, like this is mine, my children, my things, my wealth, mamatvam. He says this is amazing that the sense of ownership, mineness, should still continue in the wise man who has realized the self in all beings and all beings in the self. Sarvabhuteshu cha atmanam sarvabhutani cha atmani. So sense of ownership experienced in the attitude of mindness is an ordinary worldly man's mind. And what is that expression of? Expression of ego. That is what ego is, that this is mine and I am that. So the sense of individuality is experienced within our heart also. I-ness. I am this. I am this great body. That's also ego. And then the same ego experienced in the terms of objects around is a mamatvam, mindness. So they both are dangerous. So the combination of this I and mine is the individuality. And according to the yogis, it's a product of the ignorance of the nature of the self. Further away we are from this reality, the stronger this I and mine is. It's also degrees. I-ness and mine-ness. But it's all because of ignorance, avidya. So the whole thing starts from the avidya, the ignorance. Not knowing ourselves, we think we are this. Not knowing that I am the Atma, I think I'm the body. Not knowing that I'm the Atma, I start thinking that I have achieved so much, learned so much. That's all ignorance. So it doesn't stop there. Just keep on expanding this ignorance. That's why Rishi Patanjali, what did he say? He said, this avidya, if you don't control it, it becomes asmita, the ego. Then it further branches out into raga and dvesh, attachment and aversion. I like this, I don't like this. Even in very, very ordinary things, we just start saying, I don't like it, I like it. And then beyond that is what? Abhinivesha, which is a fear of this life. We get so attached to this particular life that we don't want to lose it. That's a fear. Where did it start? From the avidya. And that's what he's talking about over here. So the combination of I and mine is the individuality, which is a product of the ignorance of the nature of the self. So Rishi Astavakra, with his tongue in his cheeks, audibly wonders how a man of realization can still maintain his sense of mindness to the objects of the world. Okay, and the suggestion is that Janaka is continuing to rule over the kingdom of Videha because of his continued sense of possession to his throne, that this kingdom is mine. So that's why Astavakra, Guru Astavakra is saying. But in the following chapter, as I said earlier, we will listen to the eloquent self-defense of the humble disciple, who is being nailed to ignorance by these sharp and sturdy verses. Okay, I would like you to go back to Gita today. Open it on chapter 6, 29. The vision of the man of realization described there. Sarva bhutsatam atmanam sarva bhutani cha atmani. Similar words which we are learning over here. Ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samdarshana. With the mind harmonized by yoga, he sees the self abiding in all beings and all beings abiding in the self. he sees the same everywhere. It's like a seeing the God everywhere. This is a man of realization. So we still have several verses where Guru is still talking to his disciple, testing him actually in a very sharp words. But we'll see that how beautifully King Janak is going to pass this test also. So it's 11:30 almost. So let's stop it here. What we can do, I wanted to do the other book also, but let's do that next week. Because there's another book, Taoism, that's also we study. We read one chapter over there also. Those are small chapters, very practical knowledge, the same which we learn in this scripture or in Bhagavad Gita, in the Taoism too. Change your thoughts and change your mind. So that's Taoism translated by Wayne Dyer. He's one of our favorite author in these classes. We can really connect with him beautifully. So if you have any question, I would say raise your hand one at a time. Whoever has a question. Yes.
Poonam has a question. Poonam,
Okay,
you raised
Poonam.
your hand earlier.
I did.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No problem. In the second chapter, last verse, he talks about the waves of individual selves. What did he mean by individual selves? Is it past lives that he lived, or is it the thought process? Every thought is an individual self.
Yeah, whatever. It could be the past life. It could be the past second. Whatever arose. Okay. Whatever. Doesn't matter. So that's what he's talking about. See, let's go back to that if you want to. Last verse, number 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in me, the limitless ocean, the waves of individual selves, according to their nature, rise, strike each other, play for a time and disappear. So anything which arose, anything. Okay, it could be in the past also, and he's remembering it now, or it could be something new which came to him. So that's what he says. He's just saying that this is wonderful. He just came and just went back, got dissolved. As long as it gets dissolved into the ocean, then
the waves of individual selves that can't be.
Oh, ways of individual selves. We're talking about the different selves, the different forms he came up with. Yeah, it could be that also. Maybe he meant that. Okay. So he could be like a different forms he has taken. Yeah.
Urmil Chawla has a question.
Okay, Urmil ji.
क्लास में एक दफा नहीं बोली, अब तो बोल सकती हूँ ना.
Definitely. अब आप जितना मर्जी बोलो. I'm here. And everybody else is here too. Yes. Yes, definitely.
That, in chapter 3, he's kind of saying it tauntingly, or he's trying to probe deeper in the dichotomy of him saying that he's self-realized and still he's the king doing his everything in the kingdom. He's again, I raise the question, did Janak, King Janak really be self-realized when he was talking, or say, quote, bragging in chapter 2, or is Astavakra again challenging him further and deeper to be able to answer those questions? Because this is a question that arises in each and everyone's mind. So unless you have done renunciation and gone to the forest, the Tyagi or the whatever, the person who's still in the world, he is going to be like Janak.
Yeah.
He has to live like a lotus flower above water.
Yes, yes, definitely. He is, see, we will see when King Janak is going to answer. Because he'll get a chance to
refute.
yes, exactly. rebuttal. Yes, definitely. We'll see that. Okay. So,
Manju Gupta has a question.
yes, Manju.
Hershji, on 24th, last chapter 1, when he's talking about Jeev and Jeevatma.
Uh-huh.
So, Jeev means then just when you are have a body. So when he's talking about Jeevatma, it's tainted, or that is the pure Atma we are talking about.
No. Whenever we use the word Jivatma, it is tainted. When we use, yeah, it's still in the envelopment of these layers. When we talk about Atma, Shuddh Buddh Atma, then we have transcended all these layers.
Okay, so it is that Atma, when it's taking a birth or having a body, then we call it Jivatma.
Jivatma, yes. See, Jivatma has the layers, and in the layers, we have all those vasanas. Okay. So Jivatma is always individualized self. When we talk in English, that's how they say Jivatma is an individualized self. So it's like a separate. When we are Shuddh Buddh Atma, then everything is one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you, Hershji.
Good. Anybody else? Okay. Let's do the Shanti mantra, and then we'll just everybody will be unmuted. We can have some discussion. Anybody has a question also, still you can ask about anything, and we'll, as we normally say, chit chat. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much for joining. It was wonderful. Nice to see you. Okay.